Good morning and welcome to my live podcast. I'm Bob Pace, I'm your host, and we're honored to have a guest named Carol Klein. Is that
That's
pronunciation?
that's good enough. Kind is
Yes,
fine.
Kine, Carol Kine, and she's from Indiana. And she just told me yesterday about a new thing that I never heard about. I've been doing this since October, and I've been fighting CPS for 14 years. And so, all that you're listening, I want you all to be aware that there's several ways that you can interact with this podcast. Before we get started with our guest here, one of the first ways is you can text a comment, and when typing in the comment, your CPS question, please show your name, city, state, or country, and be complete with your CPS case so that we can answer your concerns and so forth. I've been involved in CPS. I had my children trafficking by CPS and put into foster care. Um, and so I've had the same experience you all here. My whole purpose is to help others like yourself that don't know where to turn to at the moment. And I offer you suggestions and advice from my own experience. And I try my best to help you. I'm a loving husband and a father. I have a family of six. One of our children was stolen by CPS, convinced that she could divorce her parents at age 12, seal her birth certificate, change her name, and adopted uh, in a foster care family. She's 21 now. She's left that foster care family because it didn't work out, but she hasn't come back to us yet. So, CPS did steal my daughter. They trafficked my daughter and alienated her from us, my wife and us. I've been married for 32 years, and as I say, I have three older children and two younger. Well, I have three younger children. One was stolen by CPS. And what I mean by CPS, I want everybody to understand that's the Child Protection System. Every state has a different acronym, and that's where you start at when you're investigated by the county. Now, another way to interact with this podcast, you can call in, but right now I have a guest, so I will not put my number up right now to take any calls in. A third way is you can schedule your time with my producer, Grace. Uh, Schedule a time to be on the show. You could be either on, I have 14 shows, 7 days a week, twice a day. I'm on at 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time. I'm on 7 o'clock in the evening, Pacific Standard Time. They're 1 hour shows, so just pick a day like a Monday evening or Monday morning or whatever. The only exception is on Sunday, I start early. Instead of 10 o'clock in the morning, I'm on at 8 o'clock in the morning. And next week, there may be a couple of evening shows that may be a little bit earlier because my son's a senior in high school and um, he has awards on Tuesday night and so forth. So I'll let you know on the times there. So you email Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And that's Grace at vincentwdavis.com. And she is um, there to help you um, schedule a show. You just tell her what show. Now, I want to thank Mr. Davis, who has produces this podcast, his law firm of Vincent W. Davis and Associates. He himself is a professional family law attorney. He has years of experience of fighting CPS and getting your children back. He's a trial attorney. He's about 35 years in the business, and he will gladly help you. All you need to do is call in at 888-888-6582, and he will talk with you. His consulting time is 30 minutes for $60. So if you really need an attorney right now to talk to, he is the guy. I'll talk more about him later in the podcast. Later in the podcast. So those are the three ways you interact with the podcast. Um, I have a host named Danielle, but she looks like she's not on. So I want to get started with our guest here. And what she did yesterday is give me some information that I was unaware of. And correct me if I'm wrong at this, but she said that you got to make sure that you're investigated by the county, that the county has registered you with the state. It's very important that the number and the registration is that was at the state, and this is necessary. So I guess if you want to complain, or I'm gonna let you take it from there, Carol. Go ahead.
Well, here in Indiana, the fact is it should be any complaint that's made at a county level, they should be communicating with their state office, and I'm finding that they are not. And not only in the case here in Indiana, but I found it in Colorado. I found it in uh, um,
California.
Pennsylvania. In
Okay.
Pennsylvania, I found it several places where the counties are making reports. Reportedly, there's a report made to CPS, Children Protective Services, is what I call it. And at a county level, the investigator comes out and investigates. But they are supposed to turn those investigations in to the state so that they can keep a tally and keep track of things such as the funds. There's a lot of victims in the child abuse field, including what I'm claiming are a lot of victims that are the parents and the children themselves to false allegations, especially if they're not reporting their county activity to the state. They're required to. If they don't, the state has no way of knowing what the counties are doing. It's just a bare minimum business practice that concerns federal funding. And that actually brings in a federal issue, doesn't it?
Yeah, I wonder what ramification that you could do if they're not reported. Is there a person at the state level or at the federal level that you contact?
There should be, yes, I've seen the Children's Protective Services. There's an office in DC. If they're set up like the FBI, though, the DC office claims no liability for what the states are doing. But you can complain to them, I'm sure. I haven't looked into it that far yet. The case I have at hand is, and I'm not going to mention any names, but I would like to read something that I wrote about this. This would be for any parent that's been wrongfully accused and didn't even know it, because this man did not even know that there was a CPS report that was claimed to be substantiated, yet it was not. So it was something that operates in the back burner under divorce actions or separation actions or child custody actions. I suspect this practice is nationwide for good reason. I what I'm called is a special document examiner, and I look at the documents, the evidence, and I was trained by a federal attorney years ago to do this, to do what I do. And I look at their evidence and I put their evidence back on them and say, you're admitting that you're doing these things, right? So I wrote, first of all, I never claimed that I'm an attorney because I'm not. I'm not licensed to practice law. I don't know the craft.
Mm-hmm.
So I say, I'm not an attorney. I do not practice law. The local code states one shall not practice law without a license. I type by hand, but sometimes I do speech to text. I do have different abilities than most, so I'm not hung up on legalese, but will take the reader to the evidence of claims made herein, and I make claims. And this is another thing. Your case is worth money if you catch them lying. You don't want to leave that case open. You want to consolidate all your actions, because I found that they are buying cases that are good cases and they're worth money. The evidence I have at hand is what's called a trial evidence folder. And the public defenders of Indiana have actually did an amicus curiae and a brief in a lawsuit against certain people to get hold of this trial evidence. I happened to open up a trial evidence folder and I found what they do to people behind the scenes. And that's basically what I found. So I just told him, I said, there are strong and compelling reasons to release the man called Anonymous immediately. If not, then whomever passes a decision to the contrary turns a blind eye to the illegal detainments and arrests and falsified police reports or the unverified child neglect, abuse, and molestation charges used in secret against the father behind an illegal arrest that stemmed from a past record pattern.
Mm-hmm.
They're liable, and therefore the state and county failed to mitigate. The state should concede and release Anonymous immediately. The legislative intent brings in the entire legislative body in setting this family up under records of crimes already adjudicated. And this is against natural law and man-made law, because I don't know the law like that. I don't know what laws they've broken, to be honest with you, because I don't know the law like that. So I'm not as knowledgeable as a lot of you are on that part. I just know it's just plain dead wrong to accuse people of something and not turn it into your boss and it not
Yeah,
be a verified
right.
complaint.
Hold on 1 second here, Carol. I have a lady that has texted a couple comments here. She's from Mobile, Alabama. Apparently, they closed their case, but they decided to call her 2 weeks later and reopen the case. And they um, they're continuing to call until my children removed. They do not agree with how many children I have, so they make up accusations. And of course, the Truth Movement is here. He's here all the time. He says, "Wow." Department of Health Services, which is CPS, says it does not matter how many times they call, they have to come out every time when I brought a lawyer. Well, one thing I want to point out to you, Carla, is you don't allow them in your home. You don't talk to them. It's as though my rule number 3 says you do not talk to policemen or social workers. You're courteous to them. All you do is say no, and if they press you, just say you need to talk to your attorney, whether you have one or not. That will get them out of there. Um, so, um, Carla, is that please do not let them in your home. Don't let them, because they're going to use things against you. There's nothing wrong with saying that. That's your civil rights.
In
And
this
this,
case, they did.
well, because
He
she
let them
does,
in and they
she
used it
doesn't.
against him.
Yeah, they. Oh, okay. In your case, there. Yeah. See, the problem is people don't know their civil or constitutional rights. And the Truth Movement said a lot yesterday. He said about 20 messages about your amendment rights and so forth there. Now, when you bring up attorney, you don't want to talk to him about attorney. Pretend you have one. Don't discuss anything. It's a no yes answer with social services. It's no yes. Same thing with police. Do not discuss anything. They'll use it against you. And they have lawyers. You don't want their lawyers. Their lawyers that give you are public defenders who have a caseload of 30, and they won't talk to you ahead of time. They'll do nothing for your case. And it's a waste of your time to deal with public defenders. They'll end up throwing you on the bus anyway. They're not very, very good attorneys. They're not experienced. They're young, and they're in cahoots with the judges and the social worker attorneys. So you need a real attorney, and you can masquerade you have one for the time being until you get a real one. Now, um, don't ask them to contact a lawyer. Another thing too, if you're in court and you have a public defender, you can't say anything. Your public defender does all the talking. You see, in court, you either have to be defending it yourself to speak or go through your attorney. And the attorney that you have in there is really, really bad. The public defender is. So if that helps you out, Carla, is that you need to call my office, 888-888-6582. Talk to Mr. Vincent Davis. He'll talk to you for $60 for 30 minutes, and he will tell you about getting an attorney. If you can't afford an attorney, there's a lot of pro bono attorneys. You just got to find in Mobile, Alabama, a pro bono family law attorney, and 10 of them will show. And from that list of 10, call them, or if it's 15, call just 10 and ask them, are you in business? And I guess when you call them the answer, I guess they are in business. Ask them if they're pro bono. If they're pro bono, the next question, ask if they have experience in fighting CPS and getting children back. Ask them if they've had experience fighting in dependency court. Ask them if they're a family law attorney. So those are the things you need to check out ahead of time. Once you get 10 responses, you look at that, narrow it down to 5. Make sure you call Vincent Davis as one of the 5 and do consultation with the other 4. And ask them, how much the retainer is and so forth. I don't know what your budget is. So Truth Movement says no, no person has a right to deprive, even conspire to deprive another person of his or her rights. I agree with you, but the problem is, truth, as you know, CPS doesn't care about your civil or constitutional rights. And the only time you can sue CPS is when your case is closed. And you can't sue for pain and suffering. It has to be a violation of your civil or constitutional rights. And the things that Carol is talking about might scare the agency to back off or something. I don't know. I need to
They
know.
need to concede probably if they're found to not be reporting it to state.
Yes.
And I will say that there are some public defenders that it's very hard when you don't have the finances to fight, because years ago I actually had custody of my children, and I lost custody because my ex-husband had more money than I did. I got it back, but it took me 5 years. So I've been through that process a bit too. And as to your case, there's a lawyer that was just disciplined. I'll send you the case for
Okay.
adopting out a child illegally with one of these cases I was talking about.
Wow. Wow.
I would like for you to get the people who adopted your daughter out in trouble for that, because they were not operating under the professional rules of conduct.
The thing is, I don't know if the statute of limitations will get my mind. She was 12 when she was trafficking out into foster care, and now she's 21. And of course, she wants nothing to do to talk to her mom or dad. My sons see her, even though she divorced her brothers. But my sons see her on a time to time basis. But she's so brainwashed, so messed up. My whole family's messed up because of what CPS. I mean, they took my $2 million
But
home.
you have a chance under the, I'd call it, I'm not going to term it right because I'm not an attorney, but the statute of frauds, there's no expiration date on that once you
Okay.
discover the fraud. So
Okay.
you could claim that somebody, if someone, like if I looked at your papers and I
Thank you.
showed you where the
Thank you.
fraud is, then you could go after them for destroying your family. It's not okay to do this.
Well, it's not only that. They destroyed my home. I had to sell my home, my $2 million home, to get enough money to fight uh, my attorney. I had too much in mortgages and credit lines, and so I had to
Mhm.
sell to get the money, and that took 40 years to get.
Mhm.
And I'm 74 now. I was 60 at the time they started calling, and it was lay people that were calling in making accusations that weren't true. They were the family members of my wife, the mother, the father, the sisters, the brother. All of them were in against cahoots, and we didn't find out about that till later, that they're the ones making the calls, and they're the ones that they repeatedly for 5 years until they tricked me, and they used deception to come into my home. And I did not know about they need a court order to come in your home. And I did not know a lot of the stuff that I know now. I wish I had done there.
Well,
But
a lot of times they'll get a court order to come into your home, and you should let them in then, because if you don't, you'll be found in contempt of court.
right. But they didn't have a court order at the time of letting my home.
Right.
I made a bad mistake of trusting them and believing in the system. And right now, I do not believe in CPS. They're horrible. They're not transparent. They use deception. They lie. They weave you in like a spider.
They work for the guardian ad litems that are introduced into all cases in court that I've seen so far. Not very few of them don't assign a guardian ad litem right off the bat. And in our local county, which I am from Wayne County, Indiana, and I'm allowed to say that I'm from Wayne County, Indiana. They did a radio show or a podcast on if you look at the county commissioner minutes for your budget every year,
Uh-huh.
you'll see the judges talking about guardian ad litems and what their pay structure is. They're
Is this
supposed to be subcontracted employees
now?
that
Is the
are,
guardian litem like a casa or an
yes,
omnibus?
yes, but bigger than a casa.
Well, are they the friends of the CPS? Because my casa,
Yes, they're
my
over the
omnibus.
CPS. They're actually over the judge. They're the most powerful people in the room, save the prosecutor.
Do you
That's
think
just on the Senate
California
side.
has them?
Yes, yes.
Okay, I need to look into that because you
So they'll
see,
appoint one to oversee the best interest of the children. And there, I found that they have broad duties that they can do, which is everything under the sun. And it's a proposed policy guideline. They're not set rules. And basically, what I found was in researching different cases, that this is the problem. The guardian ad litem is in on this, this, and this. She has control over the police force. Prosecutor's not allowed to do that. That's criminal. He'll take one of the parents and make them the criminal.
Oh yeah, they will use deception. What they do is, see, policemen are intimidators, and they wear combat gear when they come out and meet people. So that's further
They'll
intimidation.
come up to you and say, "Come
Yeah,
here," and then
yeah,
they'll say,
exactly.
"You need to back away from me. You're interfering." And you can
Yeah,
be like,
they want to intimidate you, and that's why they do it. It's like I tell people, here's the knowledge you need to look at. There's a young man, 24 years old, who was an airman just recent in the news, and he was murdered because he opened his door. And yes, he had a gun in his hand on the right side, but he was only doing that as protection. What the sheriff should have done, see, the sheriff knocked once, twice, didn't say anything. Then he knocked a couple other times, said, "This is the sheriff." Well, the guy behind the door doesn't know that's the sheriff. The sheriff doesn't know where the guy is behind the door that has a gun. So what the sheriff should have said is, open the door, lay face down, hands behind your head. If you have a gun, throw it aside of you. But he didn't do that. He opened the door, and as the gentleman stood there, backed away, the sheriff, instead of shooting him in the foot or the heel or disarm him or shoot him in the hand, he shot him in the heart and killed him. Now, see, this is the problem. If policemen are marked or sharpshooters, they should know how to hurt somebody, not kill them. But every case you hear on the news, it's multiple shots and it's the kill factor. It's almost like the policemen have sat there for months wanting this, and they do it
they'll friendly
purposely.
fire on their own.
Yeah, they want this. They don't want to apprehend them or use their tasers or something. Yes, that guy could have had a gun drawn, but if the guy had a gun, he would have shot through the door before opening it. He would have shot him right there through the door. So what the sheriff should have done, he could do to the side. He could say, open the door, put your hands down, and then very carefully look around the corner to see if the guy was compliant. But that was not done. Plus, it was a mistaken identity. The sheriff is at the wrong place, and it was a secured place. And the guy was talking to his girlfriend on FaceTime, and she watched him die on FaceTime. Now, think about the tragic emotion his girlfriend's going through, and they have the body cam of the sheriff, and they have the
What's the
video.
prosecutor on FaceTime doing about it? There's a prosecutor that sits on the Community Standards Board. There's been a prosecutor from the United States sitting on
Uh-huh.
FaceTime
Oh,
since
well.
at least 2012.
Oh, boy. Um,
He's a special prosecutor.
yeah.
Uh-huh.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah. If you look under their community standards, I'm pretty sure Meta's the same way since it turned to Meta. They have a prosecuting attorney that sits on the board of their standards, their community
Yeah.
standards. Yes.
Kayla Boosh, she says, they've told my children to lie. They could possibly record my children lying. They could not put them in a home of wealthy people. Kayla Boosh also said, my children refused to do so and told the truth about everything, which only made them angry and frustrated. Then my children tried to record them, trying to coach them into lying. But the worker knows the phone and snatched away from my son.
They will accuse the children of crimes now. If what
Yeah,
I've seen,
they are, and they took the phone from the child, which they have no right to do so.
they will they might even charge him with conspiracy with the parent he's wanting to be with.
Yeah. See, the sad part about it, and I always refer to my pink social workers, the pink CPS workers. They're the ones that wore the T-shirt in Prescott, Arizona in 2022 with the word on the front of the pink T-shirt, "We are professional kidnappers." And on the back, it said, "Parents, do you know where your children are?" 8 of them, 25 years as a social worker, went out parading around in stores. They were caught. They were immediately fired, and the DS guy was fired too. So they are now.
I do think that there are some good social workers that are needed. I do think that.
Well, I had one that called in
Mhm.
for 40 minutes to talk to me,
Mhm.
and she was nice enough to talk for 40 minutes. And she's from Maryland, and she said she had a degree in clinical psychology. It says Maryland put them through additional training of 6 months. But it's hard to believe her when I've had 3 or 4 people from Maryland tell me just the opposite. So I asked her if she could come back on the show. I asked her to try to pinpoint her some of the people on my show said that she's probably a plant, Bob. She's trying to fish, and in fact,
Maybe. Yeah.
one of my people from Richmond, Kentucky, Kay, is being harassed by the police. Her son is being harassed by the police. So they're trying to get her.
That gives them grounds to reopen a case too. If you were ever in the system, it's under a
Yes.
609 limitations, what it's called.
Yeah.
So it expires after 10 years unless one of your children are found to be, there's specific crimes. This is in Indiana only.
Yeah.
And I'm just quoting it from the new code. If they're found to be guilty of a crime done on an overpass, if they are found to write bad checks, or if they are found to be delinquent, then the prosecution may open up another criminal family court case. This is a court case that in this instance is not being disclosed. So they actually have, I can tell from the testimony in this criminal trial that was from a divorce, I can tell which ones are going to participate in the other court, this secret court. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting to me. I think it's like putting together a big puzzle. I take the whole family.
Well,
and
if the
put
kids
down
turn
all of their
18,
things.
if the kids turn 18, they can't open the case, but they can use their part in foster care. If they have children of their own, grown-up foster care kids are being prosecuted by CPS. So, just because they're
It's
18,
like it follows your family. Like the
yes,
lady I talked about last night, that her mother was the one reportedly doing the claims. Her mother had actually been put into the system for this young lady. And so they just carried it on to the next generation. And it looks like a third generation to me at this point.
yeah. I agree with you, Kayla Booz, that the judges are in cahoots because my judge was too. And they, as the department is also corrupt, the social workers and the judge and the attorneys for the social workers go out and have golf together.
And they're
You know,
mandated
you
too
know
by
who
statute and law.
You know who pays the judges? The CPS does. So the judges are voted in. And this being election year, I want everybody to vote for good judges in the CPS system, independency court, because you, as a voter, you registered voter, can vote for judges. Don't let the judges in there. Like my judge only knew anything about car repairs and collision claims. He knew nothing about family reunification or neglect or child abuse. So they are bad there, Carla. Also, I think you should also contact the state and find out if your case has been reported. There's a number on your paperwork that you can call the state. And what would be the state in Alabama that you'd call? What office there? The same one, FIOA?
No, that's a Freedom of Information Act. That's what she would request about her case. So she would look under Alabama State Office of Children Protective Services or something like that. Do a search on that, and she should be able to find them. And it should be on her paperwork too, as well, at the county level. The state office
You
should
need to
be
look
there.
on your paperwork, Kayla, because if they've not reported your case, they may back off if you report it to the appropriate people at the state level. The state has to be aware of a county case in CPS.
They're supposed to be, but on purpose, they're not.
Okay.
Because I'm finding the legislators are involved.
Yeah.
So when they're legislating these bills and they ask for public comment, that's another way to fight back too, is to actually put in your comments about why this bill should or should not go through.
Yeah. Cassandra is a new texter, and she said, what is a FAA? Are you meaning my FIOL? I mean, yeah, she's asking.
Freedom of Information Act.
The Freedom of Information Act, FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. That's what we were talking about. Your case should have been reported. It should be there, and if it's not, you need to notify the state. I don't know where you're from, Cassandra. You need to tell me your city and state or country. I don't know if you're from a country or not. Because, by the way, I've had Alabama, United Kingdom, Canada.
That UCCJEA did that. They used to have the UCCJJ, I believe, but then they went it to No Parent Left Behind. It was No Child Left Behind Act in the school. Then they did a No Parent Left Behind. It was a UCCJEA that stemmed off a Sorensen case. That
Okay.
Sorensen standard was used specially in Colorado under a study of 13 families that were high conflict, which meant they were worth a lot of money.
Right.
So they did this Sorensen standard with that, and I'm not mentioning a name that's not of the public record. Michelle Sorensen is her name. That's the standard in Colorado. What is going on with Michelle Sorensen? It appears they put her in a mental institution.
Wow.
So they hide behind these laws, and that's part of the law that's allowing these immigrant children to be ran around the country unaccounted for.
Yeah. Cassandra, you're from Brenton, Washington. Go to Brenton, Washington, and look up the state CPS um, agency where it's supposed to be reported
Headquarters.
to. The headquarters at the state, not the county, the state. And you got to make sure your case was reported. That case number is on your paperwork. Kayla Booz said that she had a great worker. She knew us well, and we invited her into a home. That was your mistake number one. She was a woman of God. That's mistake number two. No CPS worker is a woman of God. And she always closed her case after talking to the children, looking around. They decided that she's too close to us and decided to put another worker on her case that had already said she may have reminded about us when she found out how many kids we have. You know, this is the hardest thing. Parents are trusting with social workers. I don't care if you found a good one or bad one, they're all bad because I'm telling you this. They are deceptive. They try to butter you up.
Their
They
policies.
they're making promises they can't give. They break promises.
The
And
policies are
they'll
driving
shuffle
the workers,
and
right?
they'll shuffle your case around among social workers. My social worker was very young, naive. She was 22 years old. She had no college degree, and all she talked about was her Gucci purse, her eyelashes, her makeup, her clothing, because she got a bonus from CPS keeping the case open. She didn't care. She was making clinical decisions, prescribing drugs. You got to be a clinical psychiatrist. You got to be a doctor. They need to be. They need to have a degree in clinical psychiatry and a minor in social work. They need to take social work classes in college. They need to take all the parenting classes, all the programs to deal with, to know how this is before they can tell their parents. They need to be a mentor of somebody. They need to have a license that gets renewable. The CPS right now are running wild. No one is monitoring them. They did an audit in Richmond, Kentucky. Where did $140,000 go to? The CPS couldn't tell them where. $140,000 is missing. This $50 million business got to be stopped. The money's given to the state, and the state freely gives it to the county. And there's no accountability. There should be a board of directors or supervisors that.
They did that, I think, with the Fusion Center executive orders in 2012. All the governors signed
Okay.
a place up for the Fusion Centers. That allowed the watchdogs to be dismissed that used to watch over the federal funds.
Oh, wow.
That's here in Indiana, but I think that I went and did 5 or 6 other states to see if they had all done the same thing in unison, and they had apparently they did.
If any of the congressmen or senators are watching this podcast, I challenge you all to find out where your money's being spent. You talk about always shortage of money every year, or every couple months. The federal government has money. Right now, you got $50 billion being excessively given to the CPS machine, the workers, not to the people, not to the families or anything else. You need to go. There's lots of money. I mean, it's stupid that I hear that a bill from the military charges $1,000 for a toilet seat replacement, or a religious group in Salt Lake City says that they need money to find a new source of fuel, and you give them millions of dollars every year, and they have produced one drop. I challenge you, Congressman. I challenge you, senators, representative, to do something about this. Really. Kayla says that too close to us decided to put another worker in a case. And that's okay. So right now, you're going to stay away from social workers. You're going to pretend you have an attorney or get one. I want you to call Mr. Davis, 888-888-6582. It's well worth the $60. He will tell you information that will help you strategize and navigate in CPS. You just
Does
think
Mr.
about.
Davis operate nationwide, or is he just for California?
No, he's nationwide, and they're
Oh, is
afraid
he?
of him nationwide. Oh yeah,
Good.
he charges more because he has to pay for his airfare and his accommodations.
That's right.
But
But that's good.
his same charges for retainer or in California are the same whether it is for his services as a lawyer, but for his accommodations and for his transportation, he will charge extra. You know, they're
I'd like to speak with him about, and then this is a federal matter because it's a first blush case. It's a novel issue of about a federal issue. I am almost 100% certain if people will look at Obergefell versus Hodges on Oyez, they will
yeah.
find out the same sex marriage case was about doing just what they're doing now. And it's ramped up since 2016.
Well,
That-
when you call Mr. Davis at 888-888-6582, you get the office. Make sure you tell him that Bob Pace sent you, and make sure when you talk to Mr. Davis that Bob Pace sent you.
okay.
Okay, and that's really important. Now, Carol, you say, what about signing the paperwork? No, don't sign any paperwork. They constantly have forms they want me to sign, but tell me you don't have time to explain what it means or read. Just read it or no, you do not sign anything. They're going to make your life hell, but as long as you don't sign anything, you're not admitting to anything. And by law, they can't force you to sign. That's your civil rights. And they can't make the children sign anything. So you refrain from signing anything. Again, you need to talk to an attorney. If you can't afford one, get a pro bono one. Don't use your court appointed. They're out there. In Mobile, Alabama, just say find in Mobile, Alabama a pro bono
Don't they have to
family
have
law
pro
attorney.
bono hours for their CLEs? Don't they have to
I
have
don't
those?
know. I know that Texas has a volunteer association of attorneys. They're available to people. They have a web page
Okay.
that you can contact in Texas. In Mobile, Alabama, I don't know, but I know that there's at least. And if Mobile is not a big enough city, then go to Tuscaloosa. I don't know how close Mobile is to Tuscaloosa. I'm trying to pick up big cities in Alabama. I think Tuscaloosa is a big city, but anyway, you need to search. And when you find these attorneys, you just pick 10 and call them all, only because you want to make sure they're still active and make sure they're true about pro bono, because you're going to narrow it down to five, and one of the five is Vincent Davis, so you need to only get four, and you get five consultations, and then you make a decision. But the longer you wait, the longer CPS is going to get you. But the best way to do it is that when you talk to social workers, say yes, no answers. And if it gets pressing, then all you do is back off and say, I need to talk to my attorney before we go any further. And that way it does scare them off a little bit because they think you have an attorney. They don't know for a fact. So I'm telling you, from my experience, is that you need to get that attorney. It's like a heart surgery. Would you yourself, Carla, open your chest to work on your heart? Would you let a plumber in your chest? Would you let a mechanic, an automotive mechanic? No, you're going to get a professional doctor trained, gone through internship, has mentored another doctor, and has a professional doctor to operate on your heart. Same thing goes true with the child protection system. It's very corrupt. They don't like parents. They don't like seniors. They don't like elders. They don't believe in reunification. Their goal for 18 years is to keep you in the system so they can make their money. It's a money thing to them. It's nothing there. I've yet to hear, and I challenge all the social workers that are listening to me, because I know you are, to come on my show and tell me you have good cases and that you are fair and you do family reunification. Because so far, I've only heard from one social worker, and she never answered the question, do you do family reunification? So I know for a fact is that because of the ladies in Arizona wearing the pink T-shirts advertising that they're professional child kidnappers, and on the back saying that parents were your children, I know that's what the mentality of social workers are. You know, all you have to do is look up in 2022 the social workers, read the story, in Prescott, Arizona, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It's very sad. It's very, very sad to see these 8 individuals, some with their fronts turned, some with their backs turned, so you see both sides of the shirt. And that's what they're doing. That's what social workers think of you. And right now, Carol has valuable information about how to make sure your case is registered at the state level so that you can take action against them. You can make complaints at the state level against a judge. You can replace a judge. You can replace a lawyer at the state level. You can replace a public defender by asking the court. You can also replace that judge in the court you're in. You can ask for that. It's your civil rights. They don't want to do it because it's trouble work for them. But if you insist, they have to. And if I was you, I wouldn't go visit the social workers. I wouldn't talk to them. I would do everything they ask you in the plan. The program classes, you have to take drug tests, make sure they're your own drug tests, and you want to organize all your stuff in a 6-inch, 3-ring notebook. And on your notebook paper, you put in a college rule and then stick subject tabs. And one of your tabs is going to be the incident section where you put down a list of every incident that happens to you, the date, the time, and the people that were involved on the first line. The second line is describing the incident. The third line or the fourth or fifth line is about the outcome. And then you skip a couple lines and you do more. And that is the most valuable thing you can do.
And incidents can be anything that's happening to your
Anything.
family, like an unrelated event. You might think, oh, the police were called. Well, you want to write that down too, because that could be
anything related to CPS,
anything related to your family if they're investigating you, because they can make things happen.
Right. I agree. And the reason why you need this is 6 months from now, you won't remember. Your case is going to last a minimum 12 months. They say they can do it in 48 days, but I have never heard of a case getting done unless it's dropped. So once you're in the system, you're looking at least a year. With me, it was 3 years. Other people I've heard 8 years. So they just want to milk. If the child is 2 years old, they got 16 years they can get money out of that child. 16 years at $20,000 a month per child. That's a lot of money. To support their $50 billion business. So do not sign paperwork. Do not talk it. Oh, boy. Let's see if we can help out this caller here. Hello, I'm Bob. Who's this?
This is Akima from New York.
Yes, how can I help you? I have a person on the show named Carol who's helping us about reporting the CPS incident to the state level.
Okay, and I'm trying to ask a question. As of right now, they have terminated all of my visits and phone calls based on me for something that I said that the other day. So now you're trying to say that I embellished, saying that on last Friday that somebody from my childhood called about their eye being affected, and they're basically saying because I fortunately got that information, which they didn't know that I have a friend that works at my school that is, a good friend. So I never said the nurse called, and I never said I said from their school. So they perjured themselves on the court proceedings by saying who was on lockdown and was not. So
can you rephrase that question in a short question there?
To make it a short question, you said?
No, can you rephrase that into a short question? I have a lot of background noise where I'm at.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Basically, what I want to know is a foster care agency purchased themselves on a court proceeding, and the attorney has put in a motion to have the case based on the perjuring and the lack of evidence. How do I go about starting that?
Well, you can appeal if the decision didn't go your way. You can appeal that decision. You go to the appellate court. Is this a professional attorney or a public defender?
No, this is a retainer.
Okay, it's a retainer attorney. Well, he should do his job and do an appeal for that.
Okay.
Or reconsideration, yeah.
Or could do a reconsideration too. A reconsideration.
That's what I thought, Mr. Faith. I thought I could do that because I had submitted that
Immediately.
And it was acknowledged and it was admissible, but they said they had to do something else. So
you have to do the reconsideration right away. Don't let this statute of limitations get you.
The appeal too, got 20 days.
Now, being that I've had a 10-year history, now that my child is 11, and she's saying that I am causing trauma by calling wellness centers to the foster parents. The foster parent sent my 8-year-old to school with active crisis for auditory hallucination.
Correct. What you on appeal, it's 20 days. By the way, appeal, it's 20 days.
Right, that's what I thought, but not in California. It's in New York. It's not.
Yeah,
45 days.
45 days. Okay, well, you've checked it out. That's good. But make that attorney work for his money. By the way, if he's retainer, he should be busting himself really hard to work for you, because they make good money and they really should earn it. You know.
So what my other problem is, when they suspended my
New York's a corrupt state anyway. New York is so stupid that they're trying somebody on federal statute and state statutes. It's so stupid. I mean, it's like you listen to this case for 14 days, 15 days, wherever it is, and it's a joke. It's a complete joke. It's a waste. You think about all the money the people are making off that case. Everybody is going to be a millionaire. Jeez.
Right. So we go to fact finding on Tuesday of next week.
Okay.
And
good.
Now, with the fact finding, this is the longest my children have ever been gone, like out of my care, and it's going on like 491 days now.
Okay.
And this is me trying to say that my time clock is running out.
All right.
I have to get adequate time.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you called in. I am, and I'm glad I can help you a little bit. And I know that Carol has been really inspirational. She came on yesterday and told us something new that is a way that we can.
I know, I was watching you guys. Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm glad you listeners out there are getting this.
She can reach out to me at walkerswayside@gmail.com and give me her number. I'll talk to her.
Okay. Did you hear that?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Did you hear that? Okay.
No, I didn't. No.
Okay. You can type in the comments if you're on. You can type in a comment, and Carol will see it. She'll see it in the local chat.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Good luck.
All right.
Bye. Okay, thank you for allowing me to take that call there, Carol. That's one of our listeners from Brooklyn, New York, that has called a lot. I have a lot of followers. And here she is. She has a professional attorney she's paying retainer for, and she still calls me for advice, which I'm not a lawyer.
To make sure that they're doing their job. Yeah.
Right, yeah. I'm a fighter. And I try to know as much as I can. And I always talk about my 3 rules. Hire an attorney. Keep your paperwork in line. Say no to social workers. Don't let them in your home. Do not let them take your children. We have medical trafficking going on, which is really sad. That's where parents will come in the middle of the night to urgent care, have something wrong with their child, and then they say, well, we're going to see our pediatrician in the morning or get another doctor's opinion. Right away, CPS jumps in and takes the child.
Maya, the trial of Maya, I saw it.
Yeah, so I'm trying to tell you that. Also, they also are taking women that are just nursing their children, just gave birth, and they march into the room with the policeman and take the child illegally without everything there.
They had that pre-planned.
Now we have a new person here named KK Richardson. I never heard from KK Richardson. I don't know what city and state you are, but they terminated all my communication and visits based on me asking for a wellness check, but not have a court order until the next day when the motion was heard after they've already suspended it. Well, wellness check, you don't have to answer the door. You don't have to answer the door on a wellness check. You don't have to answer the door. And you don't have to let them in.
So should she bring up those procedural errors because they're not harmless?
Yeah,
to her attorney?
That should be there. That's me, Akima, Mr. Bob. Okay, I'm sorry, KK. That is Akima. There's so many people using so many different names. It's hard for me to keep track of everybody. Oh boy, Carla's youngest is 1 year old. Carla, you just really got to get that attorney, the pro bono attorney. You really got to stop talking to social workers. Say no to them. Do what they ask you, but say no to them. Always be cordial to social workers. Be nice to them. Be pleasant. But it's yes, no answers. It's like, today, if you're listening right now, the guy's not doing yes, no answers anymore. They got to his skin. And they're making him unravel. I don't know if you're following the case, but I have been because I like law and I like following cases. But the defense attorney has gotten to the witness on the stand now. So it's starting to unfold and unravel right now. So we don't know what's going to happen down the road, but all I know is that, oh boy. Uh, anyway, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry, KK. Um, Carol, now, what else do you do besides telling people that they need to make sure that their CPS case is registered?
That's not what I do. I just saw your show. It came up because I subscribed and I've listened to it a few times. What I do is I examine documents, evidence, their evidence. So, for instance, you're talking about reunification. Well, Bob, that's an admission on their part if they name that program reunification. They admitted that they ununified, they tore you apart. There
Yes,
would be no need to reunify if they had not interfered.
right. But they
It's
have
just
the
that.
right to interfere if the child's in extreme danger of neglect or abuse. The
Mhm.
problem is the definition of extreme danger is no longer what it should be. They will take a child whether they are in extreme danger or not. Because extreme danger, for instance, if you come to the home and you hear shooting going on and yelling and a child's being slammed against the wall, they're going to bust the door in and come in, the police or the social workers.
They're
But
taking them for any reason they wish
yes,
because there's
but if they're come in,
retaliation allowed right now.
yeah.
And
See
it's
what?
under the Shackman decree from Chicago where they didn't used to allow retaliation.
Okay.
That's what we're seeing go on. It's called the
Well, my
Shackman.
daughter was retaliated. There was no question about it. She
Right.
told my wife and I that I'm going to get even because our social worker lied on the stand, caught with her lie, and she lost the lie of having our daughter adopted because she lied. She lied. So I'm ignoring that um, because
So I
that's
think that one of the best pieces of what I do is I actually examine court cases, complex court cases, and I tell the people that hire me, and I work with attorneys too. There's several that I work with. I won't mention their name, but they're federal attorneys, all four of them. There's two from New York in particular that I worked with, and I actually helped get somebody off of a sentence they should have never tried to give him, and they had let him out that day once I wrote my report. So they need to concede when they're caught with their hands in the cookie jar, if you will. And that's what I do. And if I can, sometimes I can't, but most of the time I can tell somebody what they're going to find in their case ahead of time, like the misspelled names, the birth dates being wrong. Those aren't mistakes, those are purposeful. So if they're not a mistake, they're not harmless. If they're done purposely, that proves intent. These people have a modus operandi they go under. So they will come to this family and try to prove that you have a modus operandi as the husband, the protector of your family. They will try to prove that you are conspiring with one of your children to circumvent social services interfering. This is a scenario. And in the meantime, you're being accused of conspiracy, but so is your minor child who's supposed to have someone watching out for their best interests. How can that be when they're being made to be a liar on the surface and they're not even listening to the children? It's about their outside interests. And there's a grant that goes out to the state of Indiana anyway. And a judge explained it. And I have it on a YouTube video under oaths of office and these judges in Wayne County. They're admitting to it that once they boil away the fat, they get a grant that they don't have to report any of the income for or what they do with it from the state of Indiana that allows them to do whatever they want with this money. They even get to have judges from other counties come in, try the case, leave, and nobody's the wiser. This is not okay. This is not how we run a business, right? I would
right.
be in trouble if I ran a business like that.
You would be. Wow.
So self education, self awareness, because I don't know everything at all, but I do happen to know how to look at documents and see that they're not in line with this testimony is not aligned with that testimony, or this is a different story than the father told, or why do they have the CPS worker in a threesome with the mom and dad, and there's a co-defendant that got in trouble for having sex while on meth, and there was three of them. They're
Wow.
making perverted court porn is what I call it out of these complex cases and getting away with it and thinking it's funny. There's nothing funny about tearing apart a family. This to me, and I'm just going to say it, I believe in the Lord, and I believe in the devil too. And I'm telling you, this is somebody who's out to divide and conquer. And that's not what my creator would do, but that is what the underlord would do. And that's what these courts are about.
Yeah. Yeah. Kay is saying her children are really in bad shape. They're making deals with them, compensating them. Um, uh, my children's attorney has bias against me from the very beginning, making little comments that supersede his job title because he's not a clinic nor as he is substance abuse counselor. And so I know her children are being brainwashed. My children are watching pornography on their school tablets in the foster care mother's home. But this is adequate supervision. Unbelievable. Well, all these incidents you keep track of. You're going to build a case for them because once your case is over, you have a real good lawsuit against them, and you get a good attorney that will fight them a civil lawsuit. There are attorneys across
and look at the Maya case and the other cases that have been won for guidance on what you need to do.
Yes. So, keep track of that, KK. Do not talk to the social worker. Do not make deals. Do not sign papers. Do not try to push the envelope. I tried for a year. I went to the top dog in Orange County, and all I got was to see his Taj Mahal. This place looks like the Taj Mahal in India or the Emerald City in the Wizard of Oz. And he had so much gold around his neck, I thought he was going to fall over. They're very corrupt. They're corrupt from the top level down. I've gone to the top. I did not know that there's help at the state level, but I've been learning that too.
I don't know that there's help. I just know that if you can find them not going by their own processes and procedures, that indicates that they have an intent that's not wholesome.
Yes, I agree. Well, you don't have to sign a HIPAA. And as long as you keep those letters, make a separate section, keep track of all those letters, all your letters from your therapist and psychiatrist. If you're doing drug tests, make sure that you do the drug tests yourself and keep those results because CPS is corrupt. They cannot do drug tests.
They will mix up the evidence at the state police website.
Oh, yeah, they would. They do mix up the evidence. There's no question about it.
They do it with sperm and DNA too. And they play that a different way in the family court. It's all confidential, so you'll never know what they're doing unless you can read between the lines. And you get to where you can after a while.
KK also says, I definitely know that based on the previous cases where correspondence was once sufficient enough. But again, this is secure agency was far secure 10 years ago when I physically assaulted a worker who is now in higher administration. So you can't tell me this is a conflict of interest. I've done bonding studies and they weren't even acknowledged or made admissible. Wow, KK. I forgot. What place are you from, KK? I forgot what city and state you're from because I'm trying to picture the city and state that you're involved in with there. I know that Carolyn Booz is from Mobile, Alabama. She's great. Cassandra is from Bennington, Washington. And the Truth is from Washington State. I know that. The Truth is there. Brooklyn, New York. You're right.
They got 4 different constitutions in New York.
New York is so terrible.
They've got 4 different they're like in quadrants. It's real interesting there. That's where I got the kid off of a 30-year sentence when I said, Judge, you're the one that owns this property. So you guys had perfect cover with these boys coming in and they let them. And I got into it with the Southern Poverty Law Center over this. Okay. They were putting him out there like he was guilty. And I said, you got no right doing that because I've got proof that the building inspector and the judge own the property. They shut up. They shut him down.
Okay, I'm going to have to end our podcast. I've reached out. I have about 30 seconds left. I want to first thank you, Carol. You've been a great help, and you're welcome to be on my show anytime you want.
I'll be listening.
Richardson, I want you to keep trying. Be positive. Carolyn, do not talk to CPS. Don't sign anything. Carolyn, thank you so much. Cassandra, I want to thank you for texting in. And the Truthman, of course, I want to thank you for all your comments and being there every day to support this podcast. So, with all you listeners, I'm again on at 7 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Please join me then. And please have a safe day and don't keep fighting for your kids. God bless you. And this is